All right, today's episode of Are We Going to Criticize PlayStation Ever and actually, take our minds off of Xbox and what it is that they're doing for their own consumer base? We're going to be looking at a continuation of the list that I'm actually collating. So, the very first list, what I did was I talked about the cancellation of the live service games. I took an article written by Eddie Makuch from GameSpot, if anybody wants to go ahead and check it out, and he talked about these games and the titles and has actually updated that list in the more recent time. What I did then was juxtapose it against the games that Xbox, or some of the games off the top of my head that Xbox had launched this particular year or will be launching pretty soon in the calendar period that we're in. For instance, if you notice, this particular list has the Tony Hawk game and also has Gears of War Reloaded and also has Ninja Gaiden 4. These are games that are scheduled to come out this year. Now, even if I remove these games, it's still, a credit to Xbox's account, while on PlayStation side, it's a deficit, seen as even a game like Concord was launched and then unlaunched. And yes, people may say, it seems like PlayStation will never hear the end of Concord. And rightly so. It was a big investment that, when we ask where's the money, it's kind of weird. What did PlayStation do with all of these resources that it put into the development of these live service games only for them to go ahead and finally get, either canceled, collapsed, delayed in some cases. One case, the, studio lead has left the studio. Now, that's just one phase of the whole thing, right? If we move on to, like, say, maybe number 3 of this thing, I want to ask, another question. Where did all the money go? This is a question I want to ask because we've seen a few, things change lately. At first, it seemed like, they were a big deal. August of last year, everybody was like talking, Final Fantasy 16. Well, you don't have it on Xbox. Yeah, 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 yeah. You don't have it. You don't have Black Myth Wukong. And I was telling the Xbox fan, I said, guys, don't beg these devs for games, right? Let them come and beg you. You have money and they need money. So once, some of the Xbox users, they confessed to me. They said, VG, we hate this fact that, PlayStation is locking some games from us and, Xbox is putting some games on their platform. I said, relax. This thing is going to eventually, grow ahead and you're going to see it. And the moment it started, and now these PlayStation users, right? They got to get into their ecosystem and see you, the Xbox people that they called peasants, enjoying and eating and fisting, on all these titles while they have to now come out and, pony up dollars and dollars of dollars in order for them to be able to at least get anything out of it. They're not happy. That's why this subreddit was born. This one with 1,300 upvotes, the ones that PlayStation fans continue to try to mock and say, his evidence is from a subreddit. It's people, or maybe they're all bots. I don't know. But it seems like they're not feeling what PlayStation Plus is doing. And me pointing it out seems to probably be an annoyance of some sort because, again, like, we've observed, there seems to be some kind of a worship of PlayStation where you don't criticize PlayStation. But as a PlayStation guy myself, someone who basically left the PC ecosystem, the consoles that I picked up, and the consoles I played for most of my life were PlayStation consoles, I'm happy to say that if I want to give these people money, and if I'm giving these people money at any time, I'm actually, within my right to ask them, what are y'all doing with these resources? Why have you let it look like, if you're on PC, you can basically enjoy what Xbox is providing, as well as the Xbox users as well, where they're giving value everywhere. They're putting, more pro-consumer things in play, like Play Anywhere, where Play Anywhere is a thing, yet these PlayStation fanboys want to start making it sound like nobody really cares about Play Anywhere. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, man, y'all need to move aside. And then we look at games like Kenna Bridge of Spirits, right? Isn't that another one that was money hatted by both Epic and PlayStation? Yep. So what did all this amount to? And I'll ask this question very soon. Oh, what was that? Final Fantasy 7? Ooh, that one's coming too to Xbox. Final Fantasy 7. So the remake, the rebirth, and all of the others. The reason I'm putting all these where the money questions in play to ask and say, PlayStation fanboys, these are the things you need to focus on, is because those that are actually grounded and enjoy PlayStation, right? I listen to them. I've actually seen them make, comments and make requests as to where PlayStation games are and where they could be going. For instance, if you look at all of the funding that's actually been put into all this, I can almost tell you that those of you who've been wanting another infamous game, you could have gotten it somewhere from here. The money and the development time and cost could have come from here. These resources that were spent on Concord, God of War, rumored God of War live service game, the marathon delay and 3.6 billion from Bungie's acquisition, frigging factions and then got canceled, and frigging Fair Games that they've, the lead has left the studio, and frigging reported Horizon multiplayer 2, and freaking Ben's live service game, and the closure and the pulling of the project with Deviation Games, and the pull the project. Deviation Games was an independent studio, and London Studios project. You could have gotten one single infamous game from all of these resources, just one single infamous game. But here you are, you're getting an anthology called Ghost of Yotei. And Sucker Punch is a studio that has, in my opinion, way more of a capacity to develop and punch out multi-game directives, in my estimation. Or the studio can be expanded to do that. Insomniac's been doing it. That's the one studio that's, been getting stuff done. But where are those games and where are those titles within PlayStation IPs that would have served y'all? Some of you like shooters. You've mentioned Resistance, right? Some of you have mentioned, other games like Killzone, right? And Guerrilla still is here. Guerrilla was literally making. Let me tell you what Guerrilla was doing. Okay, some of you really think this stuff is just me being petty or pedantic. No, I really am pointing out to some real core issues that have been ignored by a lot of people talking about this stuff. And I said to y'all, if we do not hold PlayStation accountable and protest with our wallets, they do whatever it is that they wanted to do. And that's exactly where they are. But what I notice is, y'all PlayStation fans, as much as you come out and cap, you're not giving PlayStation a lot of money lately. And we can see it. That's why their games are on PC. But let me show you what it is that they were doing, rather than making, another Killzone, another shooter, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 million sales level of shooter, using, all of that storytelling and the graphics and all of the stuff, and, and all that stuff, right? This is what they were doing. They had these guys making a Lego Horizon game, which they made also for PC and Nintendo. Now, I got nothing against the Lego games. However, if as a PlayStation user, you're asking, where are the games, right? Where did the money go? Where are those titles like Resistance and Killzone and Infamous, right? Well, you got to realize and you got to understand that decisions were made that actually prioritized other titles such as this over your Resistance game. Don't give me that Resistance didn't sell much or Killzone didn't sell as much, because by golly, this game did not in any way move any needles that we could see anywhere. The game has got 259 reviews on Steam. Do you hear what I said? It's got 259 reviews on Steam. Not saying reviews are a measure or a judge as to how sales go for a game, but that is pretty low. I mean, any other Lego game that we see out here, just throw a Lego game out there, will give you at least a respectable dozen thousand in terms of reviews. This isn't saying that this is, guys, some people were not watching this stuff, right? They were just doing whatever it is that they wanted. They were just talking a big game, not paying attention to the fact that PlayStation was basically joking around and urinating money away. That's literally what they did. So now, instead of investing all these funds, right, into improving this single player library that I'm seeing here on PC and publishing it as a third-party developer if they wanted to, or keeping it on their PlayStation platform, which I have a PlayStation to play the ones I'm interested in, they're now basically over here telling you how they're going to commit to at least giving you one single player game a year. At least. Do you know what at least would mean? At least one? When their competitor is literally feeding their pipeline with over half a dozen games. Where did the money go all that money having, what has it amounted to for the PlayStation gamer? Oh yeah, it's made PlayStation a lot of money. They've sold a lot of consoles, but how many of you are playing console sales? And all the third-party games that you were lording over Xbox users and PC users, what has that amounted to? They have the game, or they'll get the game at some point in time. And this is just number 3. And I didn't even put an exhaustive list of other things. Listen, if you want to be taken seriously, right? In my opinion, anyways, as somebody who wants to talk about gaming and you enjoy and you have a bigger affinity to PlayStation, this is the time and this is the opportunity to have a contrast of what your expectations for PlayStation should be, unless you think that PlayStation so far has done enough, and in this mediocre time that they're here, you think that mediocrity is fine, whereby their competitor, who is third place Xbox, is bludgeoning them in content, services, and subscription at a better rate for their own users, and you think what PlayStation is doing is enough, right? If that's what you think, then you don't have any ground to critique or criticize what Xbox is doing that is pro-consumer for its users. In fact, you're not even allowed to downplay it without looking like a jerk or looking like, you're basically at this point being dishonest with everybody else and yourself. Maybe you know the truth. Maybe it's just everybody else you think you're trying to fool. So we're going to continue with this. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to me in the comment section. Appreciate y'all so much. Peace out.